Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today, this isn't going to be a particularly happy video. This is going to be a video about some of the major things that have been going on within the gaming industry as of late, and I kind of want to just split this video into different parts and go through it like that. Before we start going down the road of all the things I want to talk about, I want to just say I have been playing video games for a very, very long time in my life, and it does kind of suck that in the last few years, with the growing industry that we've seen, more layoffs like ever across the board, and we're still seeing that happen now. We've seen huge price increases, we've seen less games coming out, things taking a longer time, things costing more money, consumers having to pay all that. And you know what, it takes away from the fact that there are passionate people out there that make video games for us, the consumers, for us to get behind and enjoy and, play some incredible experiences that you can't get in any other medium. And I don't really want to be sitting here talking about my thoughts and feelings on this stuff, but I feel like it's something I need to get off my chest, and it's something that I do. It's important stuff to talk about, and so because there's been so much stuff, I just want to cover it all in one video. I don't want to make multiple videos on it because I just think it's hard to see the things that you enjoy go through such difficult times. You hope it all comes out better in the end, but who knows with this? It's a very ever-changing landscape with the gaming industry. But for me personally, I have been playing games since the NES days, in terms of my first 3 games I ever played were Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3. And then as time's gone on, and even getting into YouTube, I got really into PC gaming. I got into gaming on various consoles and platforms, handheld gaming, console gaming. I play a lot of games on my Switch too now. I'm very lucky to be able to have what I have. I've got, GameCubes and Dreamcasts and PlayStations and DS's and Game Boys. I've got loads of hardware and stuff that I've kept. I've got tons of games that I'm I've played, and all these experiences and memories, both single player, multiplayer, local multiplayer, party games, adventure games, platform, all of this stuff, right? You guys who've watched my videos, you see the criticist view of a lot of the games I play, the passion that I have for a lot of games, that when I want to talk about something that I love, when I get frustrated by the things I don't. But gaming is a big part of my life, and I do it on a daily basis, and it's that it's my thing, right? Some people watch TV a lot, some people watch a lot of films. Gaming is my thing. So let's start with just pricing. Let's just talk about pricing, because this is probably one of the biggest factors at the moment that is crippling people being able to buy games, invest into platforms, stuff like that. Video game consoles have never, to my knowledge, gone up in price the longer they've been out. And that's what we've seen with the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the Switch 2 specifically. And peripheral prices and subscription prices. All of these things have gone up as time's gone on. And it's mad to me because normally when you buy a console, at launch is its most expensive and it comes down in price. They knock 50 quid off or $50 or whatever. And as time goes on, it gets a bit cheaper. The games go down in price. Nintendo's always been a bit weird with this, where most of their games they go on sale, but they never really drop their RRP. But in the UK, most places can sort of set their own pricing for games. So you do find that their games will go down in price, but on their own store and stuff, they're not so much. But the other two consoles usually find that stuff goes down after a while. We're seeing less and less and less of this. So not only is the price of investment into a console higher than it's ever been, you now have the price of games also being higher. You have the price of the controllers being higher. Everything is extortionate. The good thing is that you get third-party controllers that are a way better quality than they've ever been, at maybe £10 less than the standard official one, or even cheaper than that. I bought a controller recently by Gully Kit for the Switch for £10, and it is a premium product. The fact that I got it in a sale for £10 is nuts. And it's what I would recommend somebody get if they can't afford an official one, right? The issue I have with this is that the whole point of gaming at points, especially when the Wii came out in this country, it was £180. One of the cheapest home consoles. The handhelds that came out here were about £120. All of this stuff was affordable, right? Okay, £100 is still a lot of money to someone who doesn't have a lot to spend. But considering what the prices are now for certain items, you're looking at £500. That's a lot of money to drop on a bit of hardware. The whole point was you had a plug-in and play system that wasn't on a PC, because PCs have always had a mixture of components that you can have. They were always a more of an investment for gaming. They do other things other than that. And the idea, you have this plug-in and play system that you can just stick into your TV, put your cartridge in, put your CD in, boom, off you go. You're having the exact same experience as everyone else. There's no issues. Obviously, as time's gone on, digital downloads, stuff like that has affected the whole plug-and-play mentality. But the whole point is that you had a console that you could put in and you get the games, and that was that. And things weren't as pricey. There are times in the 90s, I think some of the consoles might have been, but there were times when stuff leveled out. Back when I was growing up, I would go to the local shop. The price for Wii games was £35. That was the RRP. £35, right? I'm lucky that Amazon exists and sells a lot of Switch games at $45 or less, right? I don't mind spending £50 on a game on that purchase, but I like to spend a little less because, personally, I don't think the average person should be spending more than £50 on a game, because that's 50% of £100. With the way things are going with GTA 6 and Mario Kart World and these games in this country, which are about £70, or digitally for Mario Kart World it's a little bit cheaper, but with GTA 6 and that being £70 here and $80 in America, you're asking a consumer to spend the best part of £100 on a game. Now, people can disagree with me here. I don't think that's acceptable. I do not believe that the consumer should ever be forced to pay that. That price is what you ask a consumer to pay for a deluxe edition or a special edition. Back in 2010, when I bought StarCraft 2, I bought the special edition of StarCraft 2. Do you know how much it cost? £70. Do you know how much the expansion cost? £70. Because I bought these really nice box things that came with art books and DVDs and CDs and USBs, all this stuff, for £70. The regular edition was about £50. So I spent what I consider to be worth it, because I got these really nice sets. Now, games are starting to get up into that higher price point where you're buying the base game for a significantly more amount of money. And it doesn't sit well with me. I think that gaming has become a much more niche thing. Unless you're playing, you're playing indie games, or you're playing games that are a significantly more reasonable price. But AAA is heading in a way that is making it very expensive. And that's a problem. You've already asked for a large sum. In the UK, right, this is the prices on Amazon UK for these consoles, right? So PS5, £570 for the base model, not the Slim, and £790 for the Pro model. Xbox X and S. The S is £290, reasonable, so almost £300. The X is £440. Switch 2, £380, no bundle. Switch 1, about $250. Switch Lite is $200. OLED's about $300. So that's just by looking at discounted prices. The RRP of these are all higher. They're all like, Switch 2 is like about $399, $400. The Xbox is about $500. You can see the point that you have to look for discounts and getting deals now. You can't just buy the console because most places will not sell it with a discount, right? Which is crazy to me, because those prices on Amazon are, as of right of this recording, I imagine they're probably going to go up for some of this stuff. That's still a lot of money, right? My limit to a console is probably £400, right? Which is what I got my Switch 2 for, roughly. I think it was $380, $400 with Mario Kart World in the bundle. It's a lot of money to spend on a system. It really is. And some people are going to go, oh, it's not that bad. But if you're somebody who doesn't have a huge amount of money and you want to get into gaming, it's not cheap. Not even retro gaming is cheap because of the way that's all gone, right? So the initial cost of the console, the prices of video games, right? We're, again, lucky in the UK that a lot of retailers will not price video games at the RRP. They usually do it slightly cheaper. And it's usually game-by-game basis. You can usually find deals. We have Argos and Currys, Amazon, places like that, where depending on the game, we'll do bonuses and bundles. And you can get things for a reasonable price, or you can get more for your money for the same price that you would have just buying the game, right? So there are things there. But I'm lucky. I buy for myself. I don't have a family. If it was me and a girlfriend/wife and 2 kids, trying to spend money on gaming, it would be so much more difficult because, one, you have to find that money that isn't going towards other stuff. And on top of that, you know, you have one console between them, you share like your own personal rig, you know, it gets expensive, right? It was never that bad like with the Wii, with the DS, with some of these things that were significantly cheaper. And I get it, right? We live in a time where AI being partly the fault for the system manufacturers, like AI is this big thing that has been, you know, bought into by companies to help. The problem is, a lot of components, especially RAM, is designed to, you know, power that stuff, which means that the finding RAM is, one, difficult, two, the manufacturing costs go up. And so where do the companies put it? They put it on the consumer to spend more money on their hardware, or they put it on their games or their peripherals. Controllers are like 60 to 80 quid now. All of this stuff combined, all of these things about price that I'm talking about, is how do you take what should be a hobby for a lot of people, right, to play video games to their enjoyment, and you put all that cost up, you push people out the market. People can't afford £600, £700 for a console. That's a lot of money to ask someone to drop for, especially in the PlayStation Pro's case, for a lot of games that some games aren't really even doing a lot with that. You know, I get it, it's a Pro model, it's designed for, you know, for the very much hardcore of the hardcore, but still, you're asking a lot of people to drop a lot of money on a platform that isn't even putting out that much content, really, because the games are taking so long. And that's the other thing, right? So you've got, everything's taking longer, everything's costing more. Costs have increased everywhere for these businesses, and it's leaving consumers in a really difficult situation right now. I think it sucks, right? I'm lucky that I'm still able to find deals, I'm still able to pick up games that I want, like on places like Amazon and other places in the UK that are willing to put these physical editions on sale. Like, obviously, you can get sales on the digital stores as well, but for me, it's like, you know, if I'm going to pick some games up and I can get them physically, I'd like to. You know, and I would like the games not to come out at a price that is £60, £70. I just don't think, and it's down to the individual, I just don't think many games are worth that. Like, everyone's going to have their games that they're willing to spend that money on, right? So if, let's say, Nintendo Switch 2, a brand new Smash Brothers comes out at £70. I personally, that is probably the only game that I would consider that, because they've proven time and time again, those games get a lot of love, get a lot of support, a silly amount of content. That's the game I'll do it with. You know, there isn't, I would never buy Mario Kart World on its own. Nintendo are bringing out Fire Emblem at that price. No chance. I'm not spending money on a game like that. Unfortunately, that is just that's pricing me out, where I can spend that kind of money on 2 to 3 games maybe, or at least 2 games. Right? That's a much better deal than spending that on one game. There's just not many games that are worth that price. And like again, it is down to the individual, right? That's one part of the problem right now. One part of the problem is just the cost of everything, and it sucks. And I just really hate the fact that if you want to get a game now, and even if you do spend that price, you've got to hope that the value's worth it. Do you want to spend £70 on a game that's like 10 hours? Probably not. You know? Nintendo's doing a bit of a variable pricing. They brought out Star Fox, digitally £41 in the UK. Amazon sold it for £41. I bought it for £41. A game that I think that's pricing's correct. If I'm going to spend 50 quid, if I'm going to spend £60, they have to be on games that I deem to be valued like that. There are a lot of games that I just don't think are that, and I think most games kind of fall under that. So, you know, that's why people kind of live and breathe for sales. That's why people have, like, on PC as well, Steam and Epic and all these other stuff, to be able to get games on the cheaper for cheaper prices, because that's the needs of the many now, is that people aren't able to spend that kind of money, and they have to pick stuff up in the sales or reduced prices, you know, which doesn't look good for the companies, because they're like, oh, no one's buying our game. Well, it's because you've put the price up and no one can afford your game. Same with your consoles. Oh, the console sales have slowed down. Funny that. Had you not raised your prices by creating a problem of your own, by putting all this time into AI, we wouldn't be in this mess, would we? Right? And unfortunately, it's not on the consumer to fund these companies or that increased funding. Some people will spend it, some people always will. But most, your average Joe, it's not on them. It's never going to be on them. If the companies fold because they've raised the prices of the games, their consoles, whatever, completely on them. Completely on their investors, all that. Right? And as far as I'm concerned, fail. Right? You put yourselves in this mess, right? Figure a way out that doesn't affect the consumer. Consumers should be voting with their wallets, right? By not buying stuff at full price. Oh, you want to put that 70 quid game down to, you know, £50? Oh, funny that, it's on sale, now people are picking it up. Wonder why? Maybe it's because people can afford that rather than the best part of £100. So yeah, the cost is definitely one of the biggest issues right now. Let's talk about Sony and their crazy announcement, shall we? Sony announced that they're removing physical discs. No longer from January 2028 will they be making physical discs. This is incredibly anti-consumer. Why is this anti-consumer? Because choice for the consumers is never a bad thing. As somebody who buys digital and physical, I like the fact that I have options. I might look at an indie game and go, oh, it's a smaller game, I don't mind putting that on my internal storage. Oh, it's only like a gig. I can get it for a £5, or I can buy it for like 15 quid or whatever. Cool, I'll get it on there. Then I look at maybe a bigger game. I go, oh yeah, you know, Nintendo, Indiana Jones has come out, for example. I'm like, oh cool, I'll get that on cartridge because that's 60 gigs I won't have to install. And the thing is, I know with PlayStation a lot of the time is, you know, you've got those discs, they can hold the games, but a lot of the time it's like you stick them in and download it. It's still a choice for the person. They can make a decision. And it also, the second-hand market is incredibly important. Say what you want about used games or whatever. Growing up, I had no money, so I spent my time, back before GameCube games blew up in price, buying GameCube games anywhere between £5 and like £15. I had very little money, but I could go to the second-hand shop, I could pick up a couple of games at a time when I earned it, and had the money, and then go away, and I'd be happy because I got those games, right? I thrived for that whole second-hand market. I loved it. You know, I traded games in. I did all that sort of stuff. By not having physical and only having digital, you can't trade those. You can't lend them to friends. All of this stuff is just like, well, this isn't okay. On top of that, Sony are in charge of their own market. People have already seen that it can be hacked fairly easily, so they need to strengthen that. Having your own market and determining and not having places for like variable pricing in terms of like someone can come on and go, actually no, I want to sell this game for like £5 cheaper. They're in control of that. Do you trust them? I mean, that goes for all three of the big companies. Do you trust them? Like, having that competition for selling products at different prices is great for a consumer. You can make that informed decision. Oh, you want to buy it full price on the digital store? Fine, go ahead. Oh, you can't afford it at that price? Oh, but you can get it like £15 cheaper somewhere else? Awesome, you've got that option. With what Sony's doing right now, this is incredibly crap, right? I mean, I've never been a big PlayStation gamer, right? So it wasn't like I was going to buy, you know, I own a PlayStation 1 and I own a PlayStation 2 with a few games, and I have memories of that stuff. But and a PlayStation 3, I quite enjoyed a lot of the games on that too. But I don't own a PS4 or PS5. And when they decide to inevitably announce the PS6 that is all digital and there is no attachment for physical disc or whatever, you're going to turn people off. People aren't going to be happy. The backlash is insane already, right? And people are going to say, hey, well, you know, PC. PC's an open market. The good thing about PC is if you can't get hold of a game, you can illegally download it, right? You can emulate it. There are ways around the things there. It's unlikely Steam's ever going to turn itself off, but you have Steam, you have Epic, you have EA, you have Ubisoft. You got GOG who actually let you download the game, and even if they went offline, you still got the game. Right, there are things there to do that. Yes, you can still play physical on PC. If you get a USB drive, put your CDs in, you can still install things that way, depending on how old the game is and all that. So it is possible. But I think the fact of the matter is that PC is a slightly different beast. I do believe that physical games should still exist on PC. I am all for that. But you have a lot of platforms and a lot of places to buy stuff as well. You have like the other, I think like Green Man Gaming and places like that as well that sell CD keys and things like that. The ethical ones, right? So there are places to get keys from. You know, you can gift people games and stuff as well on PC, which makes that a lot easier. But removing physical is just not okay. It's never going to be okay, and I'm never going to... I mean, like I said, I wouldn't be buying a PlayStation 5 anyway. But if a PS6 comes out and it is all digital, and there is absolutely no way you can like use physical games, like no way to like put a code in to get a download for it, and the fact that you don't even own half of it, you get the license. How do you not trust them for not taking it from your library? We've already seen Sony do this multiple times, especially recently. They've taken movies out of people's libraries. Come on now. right? That is just not okay. You need reasonable warning. You need to be able to have things that you can keep, right? If you own a physical game right now or something, and you can get a version of it digitally, you should be... that is your digital version. None of this, I bought it digitally, oh, it's a license. No, none of that. You own it, and it stays on there. And you can get it anytime you put the disc in there, right? It sucks. Anybody who's defending this, you're an idiot. I'm sorry, you're an idiot. Physical media should not be going away. And even saying, oh, 90% of our customers buys digitally, that's still 10% of your customers that you are going to lose if you do by getting rid of this, right? And that could be millions of customers that are no longer going to buy your platform. That's already going to be stupidly expensive, no doubt, when it comes out, right? So if you've got a PS5 right now, now is the time to buy up all the games, physically, because they're going to be worth something in time. I hate it. I hate it when consumers get less choice. I want the option to be able to buy physically and digitally. There's no reason why that shouldn't exist. And making discs is not expensive. It is stupidly cheap compared to cartridges, right? That's why discs have always been a thing for such a long time. So let me move on to my final point. So we've roasted the cost of things. We've roasted Sony. We're going to roast Xbox now, and I'm sure at some point we'll be roasting Nintendo in time to come, because they're also raising the price of their Switch. So that's not great. Xbox, you may have seen at the time of recording, this is the day after they announced a ton of layoffs. I think 3,600 layoffs that are coming. Some now, some later. Xbox is not in a good place. They haven't been in a good place for a while. They had a good showing of games coming out, which I think people were happy with. They've got games that I want to play, right? But I can't ignore the fact that this is happening again, right? They have spent all of this money. Has it paid off? No. Subscriptions haven't been where they have to be. They've got all these companies. I will say there is one silver lining for all this. Microsoft have actually managed to spin off some of this stuff without closing studios that we know of right now. So, if you are unaware, Compulsion Games, who made South of Midnight, and Double Fine, who did Psychonauts, they have now gone fully independent again. Great. I don't know whether they've got layoffs as well, but awesome. They've gone fully independent. They're not closing. Amazing. You then have Ninja Theory, who do the Senua games, and you also have Undead Labs, who do State of Decay. They have now got new ownership. That new ownership has not been announced, but they now have that. So they're safe. Again, probably layoffs, but they're safe. The only real company at the moment people aren't sure about, or what's been announced, is that Arcane are going through the process of, so these are guys that make Dishonored and currently making Blade, are going through the process of finding ways to sort the company out, basically. And I hope that they find a new home, because that's what matters. Because none of these people deserve to lose their jobs in the first place, and they're all making quality products. If you're unaware, if you go and look at the output of most of these studios Xbox support, they've made very good games. Even if I haven't played all of them, they have made very, very good games. And then there's layoffs across the board. ZeniMax been hit, Activision, Blizzard, they've all been hit. And it sucks. It really, really sucks. But, Microsoft have been basically at rock bottom for a while. If this is their plan to get back to the top, awesome. But this is just another thing that's happening in the gaming industry now that just sucks. We saw Embracer a few years ago, that whole thing collapse and places shut down and places get sold off. We've seen it with Square Enix. We've seen it with a lot of companies. We've seen it with Sony, doing it with Bungie. People losing their jobs. It's not even their fault, right? These companies get on the staff to make these games. The games have to do almost crazy numbers for them to keep them going. And it's the problem with corporate greed. It's the problem with constantly looking for an increase in your sales over the last time. There needs to be a number. Let's say 5 million sales, right? Let's just use that as an example. If you say a game hits 5 million sales, that's a success, right? Don't compare it to anything else. That is a success. Right, on to the next game. What's the number we're trying to hit? 5 million. Oh, we've hit 4.4. Didn't quite hit it, but you know what? It was still a success. Next time it's 6 million. You need to standardize and level out the costs and these expectations. And this is the problem with having investors and being publicly traded and all this sort of stuff, where people want more and more and more. And it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable, because look what's happening now. Layoffs within years, more layoffs, more layoffs. It sucks. I am so sad for these people, because the people that are getting laid off, 90% of the time, your artists, your concept artists, your programmers, your art designers, the people that actually make the games, the people that actually give a shit about the product that they're working on. It's not the higher-ups. It's not the management. They're not taking a pay cut. They're not sacking some of it. Like, some of it is middle management. They'll go. But the top people, they're not the ones that are going to lose their jobs. And it sucks because they're the ones that are making the decisions. And they're the ones that should be, penalized for it, not the people making the games. Do you think any of these companies go out and set out to make a bad game? No. They make the game. If the game hits 1 million sales, that's a win. If it's 2 million, that's a win. Every, whatever the internal thing is, but you can't have infinite growth. You want growth, but you can't have infinite growth. You need to set boundaries of what your expenditure is and what your targets are and be reasonable about it. Alright, you hit 5 million this time, you want to hit 6 million, but don't make 6 million the target now you've hit it. Keep it at 5 million. That's the problem. They go, this time we made 5, next time we made 6. We're on our 5th game, we've made like 10 million. Every game we've got to hit 10 million. It's just not, especially in this day and age, it's just not likely to happen. Street Fighter 6, a game that I really enjoy, is eventually sold after like 4 or 5 years, I think 6-7 million copies, right? Certain games are going to get there really fast, and that could be to do with free to play, could be to do with box copies, whatever it might be, right? Could be to do with sales. But this is the problem that the industry's seeing. We've seen it with Xbox. Xbox seem to be doing something about it. We're not going to see the results for about 2 years. Did it pay off? Did they suddenly in a much more sustainable place? Are they putting out decent products? Are those products reasonably priced? Are they making them enough money? Are their targets reasonable? They're not increasing the targets to be like, now we've hit 5 million, now we're going to hit 20 million on the next game. Nothing like that, And it sucks because the people who are making the games, the people that love the games, are the ones that are losing their jobs. So right now, the gaming industry is in a hole, in a really dark hole. Not entirely. You've got incredible indie games coming out. Nintendo's off doing their own thing, loving life apparently, making quirky games coming out this year. But overall, there's a lot of bad news and a big black cloud hanging over gaming at the moment. PC's probably doing fine as well. But honestly, the way that things are heading is not a future that I'm looking forward to. It's not an affordable future for a lot of people. There's not going to be choice for a lot of people. There might be less games coming out because there's less studios. All of this sounds quite bleak. I am hopeful that things will level out and things will change. But a lot of the problems that exist are by design of those companies. Sony switching to digital is because they did that to themselves. They deserve all the hate. Physical doesn't cost that much, and it still brings people in. So that's a choice. Xbox, obviously bad management for a while now. Hopefully that fixes itself, and they can rehire people, expand sensibly in the future. And then just the cost of things. We need to see console prices come down. We need to see game prices not go up to $80, £70. Not these extortionate things, but it should be a hobby that people can enjoy. Honestly, this is just me getting everything out of my system that's been going on recently. It's not a video I really wanted to make, but I figured that it was something I needed to talk about. So I just want, people to be aware that gaming's in a tough place right now. And hopefully it won't always be in a tough place, but the next couple of years from this point forward are going to be kind of tough until we see things level out. It's not all doom and gloom, because there are other companies, smaller games. There's always going to be stuff for people to play. But seeing the big news at the moment being Sony getting rid of physical, Xbox doing layoffs, and the price of gaming just be rocketing at the moment, it does kind of suck. Anyway, that's my little rant over. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, so obviously hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and then if you want to see more discussion content and opinion pieces and things like that, as well as game related, actual games, hit the subscribe button, stick around, and until next video, I will see you then.